Sex workers of Reddit, who was the grossest customer you've had? A friend of mine used to work at a brothel. She told me about a client, late 40s to mid 50s, who wanted her to wear his actual daughter's clothes and do some father/daughter age and incest play. He claimed it was the only way to satisfy his urges without doing something despicable. His daughter was 14 and he was bringing in her actual clothing. Apparently he was a regular and would call ahead looking for young petite workers who were up for the extreme age play. My friend said she saw him once and was pretty creeped out by the experience, so declined him on further visits. She also said that as far as weird clients go, he was an ideal punter at face value. He was upfront about what he wanted, never pushed any of the girls' limits and paid whatever they demanded, which unfortunately was not the standard behavior for every John. She did say that it was the most creepy client she had though. Thanks for reminding me how normal I am, Reddit. When I was working under a service, I got called to meet with an older man in his 70s, regular to the service, that wants to take some extreme photos and receive a BJ to completion. When I got to his place, he walked me to a room with a life-size crucifix and a noose hung on the ceiling that can be lowered and raised. First set of photos, I slipped my wrists through metal hoops of the crucifix. Second set of photos, I was on tippy toes with the noose, loose-ish, around my neck. I was told to act dead, expressionless, limp. After the photos we set up for the BJ, and his dick was too low for when I'm on my knees, so he found a crate to stand on. As I was blowing him, I noticed stabbing pain on my thighs but pushed through because he was already coming. Didn't take long. I looked down and it was his gross long ass yellow and black toenails that were stabbing my thighs. Literally dry heaving thinking about it. Edit, I was told about the crucifix and noose beforehand. Other girls also have gone before with no issues. When I got there and saw that the guy is really old and moves slow, I did not feel threatened or afraid, and I made sure to be observant of him the whole time for signs of aggression, but apart from the death-related fetishes, he was quite meek. After the ordeal we shared a joint and talked for a bit. Knowing I will not be returning, I asked him how he developed his fetish with the nooses and crucifixes. He said matter-of-factly that it all started with being physically abused by his mother as a child and witnessing his mother killing herself via hanging. I was very surprised and appreciative of his honesty. Definitely one of the more eye-opening, disturbing experiences I've had in SW. Used to work as a professional dominatrix. Had a client who brought a pet egg to a session and then ate my foot shavings. Had another client who brought yogurt to the session and paid me to watch him fuck the little Yaplate cup. The smell was atrocious. And of course, there are the many clients who never adequately prepared for a pegging. I honestly can't choose. Update, the Yaplate fucker was a Brooklyn Hasidic Jewish man. So if you choose to visualize it for some reason, make sure to include the payos, ringlets, swinging back and forth. The grated Parmesan foot cheese guy poured the contents of the pet egg, which also included my friend's foot Parmesan, straight into his mouth. I think that I grated up some more for him to take home and instructed him to actually pour it over spaghetti. Wait, was that low-key cannibalism? LMAO. Update number 2, just unlocked a repressed part of the Yaplate memory. He ate the yogurt after fucking it. I got confirmation from another Dama friend who's seen him. Fucking and eating the yogurt is his thing. He's notorious in Brooklyn. I wasn't a sex worker, but, as a taxi driver, I had many regulars amongst the sex trade. They all had the same character they point blank refused to entertain. He didn't believe in washing, either himself or his clothes. Reckoned it weakened a person. I was lucky enough to only have met him in the open air, but my nose was still traumatized. He was really miffed because none of the ladies would entertain him, and then I refused to take him in the car. LOL, no amount of money would have been worth that. Not me, someone I know creates content. Feet pics. Got paid $3,000 each for 2 photos. One of lacy undies on the floor around her bare feet like shed dropped them. Other photo of her having taken a dump in the undies, dropped them, and then stood in it. She figured $6,000 for 2 photos that don't show her face isn't too bad. Not me, but a friend who escorts had a guy really into shaming. He would go through her trash can to find used condoms of other clients and start chewing on them, and he wanted her to start yelling at him and beating him for doing that, while he was on his knees still chewing on the used condoms. I used to be a SW, then ended up with a pimp, so I didn't really get a choice in who I accepted. One kinda gross but not the worst, was an older trick who was a regular. He would not wear his dentures and try to suck on my boob multiple times, and just thinking about it gives me the creeps. Another trick was so insistent that I shit on him. We had plans to meet, but I had to keep blowing him off because I was heavy into opiate addiction and constipated. When I finally met with him, it took me about 15 minutes to get it all out and he paid me $2,500. Didn't have to do anything sexual to him, just shit on him. Edited, changed P to pimp. Also EDA, since a lot of people are asking how much money I kept. The answer is none. He would take my money, give me drugs, as long as I was working or made the quota for the day. If I didn't want to work he would take the drugs, until I was so dope sick that I would take more tricks, just to be not dope sick, make sure I had a hotel room, make sure I had food, drive me to calls, run my phone, and if shit hit the fan, come and protect me. It's not something that I would have done if I wasn't suffering an addiction to multiple substances, but at the time it was relatively easy, and I didn't really care about living at that point. Pimps tend to be very manipulative, and will isolate you, so that you are fully dependent on them. I often worked at least 5 hours driving from the city I was living. I was homeless but had places to stay in, so I couldn't decide to just cut, if I got sick of it. Not gross, but I did have a guy that wanted to cut off my leg. This was on a date, but I had this guy, my friends and my therapist call him Poop Ryan. So you know where this is going. He and I got intimate one night and he begged me to pee on him. At this point, I was decently intoxicated and figured, it's his apartment and I never have to see him again. Why the fuck not? So I agree. Well. He laid down on his floor and I stood over him. He said, no. Up here. And pointed to his face. So, I was like, okay. I can pee on his face if he wants and I move. Well. He opens his mouth and I step away and go, whoa, no. I'm not doing that. He begged me to pee into his mouth so he could drink it. So, I figured. C'est la vie, right? I squat over him and start to pee into his mouth. And he's drinking away. At one point he tells me to stop. So I do and I'm holding it and he gets up and leaves. He comes back with a glass from the kitchen. He asked me to pee into the glass so he could enjoy it later. So. I pissed in the glass and watched him drink my urine from a pint glass. It was at this point I was very sober and decided, well, that's enough dating for this century, and got ready to go when he begged me to take a shit on his chest and then fuck him without him cleaning it off. So I got in my car, watched him run out after me, drove away, blocked his number, and never looked back. Exotic dancer here. I watched a girl get on stage with a bottle of Heineken and put it into her vagina, then do a handstand effectively drinking it. She then stood back up and the beer went VM back into the bottle and someone paid her to drink it. I was a phone sex worker. The amount of men who wanted me to be a cold dead girl was a bit disturbing. This blew up after I went to bed. A few people have asked how I managed to do a dead girl over the phone. Basically, I described the state of my corpse and they detailed how they wanted to abuse me. In answer to another frequent question, I'm not sure phone sex work exists anymore, as I did this in the early 2000s before FaceTime and OnlyFans existed. I kind of have to take a shit. I'm seriously wondering if I should go to the bathroom, or put an ad online and see if I can make a quick $3,000. My friend used to do this on the side cause extra cash, but she stopped when she had a guy pay her to peg him, and then as she was doing it, he shit himself and didn't want her to stop. He told her that it felt better with that kind of lube. She said she had to stop and gather herself and proceeded cause he was paying her $1,000 for the hour, but as she began again, that's when he began to jerk off and cum all over the bed underneath him. She said that room smelled so bad afterwards. She said as she was washing up and getting ready to leave, he was just laying on his cum and shit-stained bed. Like she said, he's literally laying on his shit and cum and naked and pleased with himself. She says he wanted her to do it again as he was laying there, but this time he wanted to be on his back while they did it. She says I politely declined and told him I had to get to another appointment. I have a friend who was a pro dama in a dungeon in NYC for a few years, and she had a regular client who was an FBI agent. He was into mummification and would come in once a month to be bound in a body bag for 48 hours at a time. What is a profession that you have limitless respect for? Hospice workers. End-of-life care and special needs workers. The people who quietly do so much for those in need, where unfortunately some have no family or loved ones to be there for them. Most do it for low pay and receive a heavy mental tax in return. Sewage workers. As a nurse, the hospital housekeepers. It's a thankless, underpaid, miserable job, but so critical to patients' health and well-being. People involved in elder care. They are grossly underpaid. Garbagemen/women. Lest we be buried in our own waste. Janitors, those people are unsung heroes. Electrical line workers. Those men and women go out in the worst temperatures and conditions at any time of night just to get your house its power back. Paramedics. Deleted. Anyone who investigates child sexual abuse of any kind. Agriculture field workers. Just any profession that has to interact with the average person as part of their day. Honestly, people are fucking idiots. Special ed teachers. Social workers. Dear God, the things they see are soul-crushing sometimes and often, poor pay and little recognition for their work. Love them. EDA, seeing all the social workers comment is making me so happy. I'm glad I could make you feel seen. I have been helped by social workers countlessly as a disabled person and psych patient, and now as a nurse I get to collaborate with you guys on a professional level, and you are my favorite resource. I hope one day the rest of the world appreciates the work you do. What is abusive, but not widely recognized as abuse? Using therapy speak to try and demonize anyone who inconveniences you as an abuser. Using good intentions as leverage to control people, and demonize them when they ultimately choose another route. Encouraging someone when they are having destructive behaviors. Putting the pressure of huge expectations on a child and then telling everyone that all of these dreams are the child's dreams even though they're obviously yours. Withholding life skills from your offspring to keep them insecure and dependent. Edit. If this resonates with you, there's an excellent support sub at r/estranged adult kids. Parents that are super controlling and won't let their children make age-appropriate decisions. Using guilt to manipulate the people closest to you. My grandmother, 99, can send my mom, 80, into such darkness with a swift and stinging comment. I hate to see it, and it is absolutely abusive. Not allowing your children to show unhappy emotions. Telling someone how they feel, or how they should feel. Not letting employees have a lunch break. Edit. Yes, it's illegal. My job requires constant monitoring, but it's a desk job, so I don't care. I just eat and work at the same time. If it were any other job I would speak up. I'm also in the office completely by myself, which is nice. Calling your partner vulgar/offensive names in arguments, so many people believe this is normal couple behavior. When you come home in a bad mood and take it out on your family. They didn't do anything and they love you. Don't fuck it up with the name calling and yelling. Talk to them instead or ask if you can just be left alone. Telling someone that they did not hear or see what they did. Making them question their memory and sanity, just so you don't look bad. Parental alienation. Telling lies to children about their other parent. Really screws with kids' heads because they are 50% that other person. Trying to shame/gaslight someone out of their own aspirations/pursuing their own happiness due to your own insecurities and jealousy. Rage driving. Intentionally driving fast/recklessly to frighten passengers.